You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast.
Give you a nice little detour. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the ReRACEables Podcast. I am your host, Tom, and I am excited to be joined once again by Nicole and Josh. Welcome in, everybody.
Thank you.
How's it going?
We are here for season 36, episode 9 out of Dominican Republic. We started with 13, and we are down to our final 4. In next week's finale, we have Ricky and Cesar, Rod and Leticia, Juan and Shane, and Amber and Vinny. And I want to start here. Do we have the right final 4?
I believe we do have the right final 4. They are all the teams that are strongest, and Yvonne and Melissa deserve to go home. It's as simple as that.
I think we're very close, but I am still bitter about last week's goodbye of Danny and Angie. I actually do think that they are a very strong team, and their brains really, really pushed them probably further. And I think that they're probably stronger than Amber and Vinny. That's my personal opinion. But other than that, I do think that the others are right.
Obviously, Ricky and Cesar have to be there. Juan and Shane have to be there. Rod and Leticia have to be there. Dead wrong on them. Always believe in the professional athletes. Shame on me. And I'm going to agree with you, Josh. I think the 4th team should be Angie and Danny. And I think Amber and Vinny's tumultuous relationship perhaps is what works for them. And ultimately, they have enough skills to get them to this point. So I would say that they're almost like a 4A, but Angie and Danny, they would be the ones.
I think Angie brought him down. She was ultimately the one who made the wrong turn that cost them the race. The whole time she brought him down. Ultimately, they weren't top 4 material.
I think that Danny was playing the smartest game out of anyone. I mean, arguably even better than Ricky and Cesar. Ricky and Cesar are a solid team, but they've been coasting from the top of the pack the whole way. Danny and Angie have had to fight, and specifically Danny has had to be creative in how he can get ahead, you're right, having a hindrance of Angie. And he did. And if it wasn't for, it's arguably the crew's wrong turn and not Angie's wrong turn in my eyes. But if it's not for that, I do think that they do have a good chance to win it all.
So let's go team by team. Why we believe they should be in the final 4. Let's start with Ricky and Cesar.
It goes without saying. They have the best track record. Most wins. They have the most unique life experiences to prepare them for the race. They speak Spanish, and in this particular season, that matters a lot. And they're just dominating.
They also, I agree with you on all of those points, but I think also as a team, they are strong. They are rock solid. There is nothing getting in between them. They are on the same page and communicative the entire way, and they have a will to win. And those are really big factors that I count as well.
I think they communicate well. I want to add that. And they haven't made a mistake. They haven't made a mistake at all. They've barely faced adversity in the race where they just couldn't figure something out. They couldn't unlock the lock. They couldn't figure out the puzzle. They couldn't. It just didn't exist. And that's why they've literally had second, first, second, first. I mean, it's crazy. They've won 6 out of the 9 legs. And the other ones, they came in second. How about Rod and Leticia? Why are they in the final four?
God is a superhuman. He called himself Superman mode. Instead of using the stick to get off the cocoa pieces, he was jumping up and down, and they came out in second place. It was great, just superhuman. And we've seen him be a superhuman all throughout this race. Talk about when he had to pedal for the electricity or just any sort of physical challenge. Rod dominates. Probably, I was thinking about this today because I am always thinking about the Amazing Race. I was thinking that Rod perhaps might be one of the greatest competitors on the Amazing Race ever.
Wow.
Wow, hot take.
Yes.
Josh's hot take.
I think that, no, it might be back. The sizzling hot take.
You haven't had a hot take in a
I think
while.
he just dropped one in a sizzling hot pan. Yeah.
But I do think that Rod's superhuman physical ability has really, really shown throughout the race. Now, I think that there maybe poor directions and poor planning and lack of communication are also showing. But in terms of dominance of physical challenges, I don't know if I could pick another better competitor than Rod.
I loved watching Leticia even acknowledge it when they were in the car, headed to the baseball stadium. She's like, he gets on the field and he knows how to shine. And all of a sudden he's talking about how baseball was his first love. Oh, okay. And he got scholarships. Oh, okay. He's a pitcher and threw I threw around 93. 93? Are you kidding me?
Yep. Yeah.
Athlete getting recruited by the Cardinals and the Yankees? Like, come on. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Oh,
Coin the term.
But seriously, it's crazy, but I want to point this out. The reason I think that Rod and Leticia are there on top of what you were saying, Josh, it's happened in multiple episodes, and this was no different. At the cacao pod processing challenge, it's like they had no camera time, but they were done second. The puzzle at the canyon, the first roadblock. Rod, we're led to believe he has no idea if he's right or wrong. He's going from clue to finish, but all of a sudden he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. He's looking at all the clues. Bink, he's done. Second try. Like, where the hell does he pull it out of? It's happened in other episodes, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Like, as a team, their competitive stamina is great. It always will be because he's a professional athlete at the highest level, and that's just how they're wired. And you can't teach that. You can't replace it. You can't replicate it. Period. The end.
I also have to say that while all of that is true, Leticia surprised me in her performance as well. Because when we first judged her on our first episode with the rankings, I thought she was just an Instagram model and there wasn't much to her. But at the last leg of the race today, when it was a foot race, she kept up with Rod and outran Juan and Shane.
Very impressive.
That was impressive.
Shout out Leticia.
Not only that, in terms of physicality, like she's just a good level-headed match for Rod.
That's my baby.
Like when he has to take the lead and she lets him. And like that's what they need as a team together.
Well, she knows I'm gonna go out there in front, baby. You know, my physicality is gonna do that.
Yeah. Whereas like
I love Rod.
If his wife was also an alpha personality, it would never work.
Yes.
Very true. Now, can I throw this one nugget? Rod's out of roadblocks.
Yep.
Did you catch that?
I caught that.
One strategy could say, use them up, get Rod to use them up and get us to the final four. Maybe Leticia could have done something in this episode and they still would have been okay. What's our level of concern?
Perhaps she should have done baseball.
We're going to get to that. Hold that thought. What's your level of concern with them going into a finale with Leticia having to do all roadblocks?
They just better hope it's not something that is totally physical. Knowing Amazing Race, it won't just be a physical thing. There'll be another option, and she'll be fine.
Not concerned.
I mean, they're not going to win.
Because of that?
Because Ricky and Cesar are going to win. It's undeniable. That's what's happening.
So you're taking it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because even
win.
if Rod was able to do it, they're not winning.
Josh, your level of concern with Rod being out of roadblocks?
I think that even if Rod had roadblocks left, I don't think that they would win either. But I don't think that's because of Ricky and Cesar. I think it's because they are just not a strong team. There's going to be a travel element. There's going to be a transportation element. There's going to be a logistics element. There's going to be a memory element. These are all things that we've seen them struggle with. So I don't see them winning either way. So I'm in support of Rod doing all the challenges he wants to get to this point.
I see a third place finish for them.
Not fourth.
No, I see them in that third place.
Me too.
Limp to the finish line.
Yeah.
We'll see like the winners happen and then the second place team. And then it'll be that that last clap of that team that comes in third. And
he'll be saying, okay, baby, let's finish strong.
Come on, baby. We got finish line. We got the finish line.
Yeah.
Am I missing something? Do we normally have 3 teams in the finale?
Last 3 will cross the finish line. And that's the same this season. I guess they're doing within the hour and a half, 2 legs, and one team will be eliminated.
Oh, Lord.
So we'll see. Juan and Shane, why are they in the final 4?
They are physically fit. Juan speaks Spanish. They work well together. They communicate. They know their strengths and weaknesses.
Building on that, I think they're not too high, they're not too low. And they keep their emotions in check, and they just encourage each other. They speak a similar language, and they understand how to talk to one another and how to not talk to one another. And they're not emotional. And I think that's been one of their biggest strengths on top of everything you said.
Yeah, I support everything that you guys just said. I think that they are also probably the most fit as a duo. Out of all the other teams this season. I think they are the strong team. And in a way, we've actually seen them use their smarts as the season went on to say, oh my goodness, let's power through this challenge and then be able to be able to push yourself physically ahead of the other teams.
Like the seaweed.
Like the sea. That's what I was referencing without saying it.
And finally, Amber and Vinny. It's been a uphill climb for them, especially emotionally. Why are they in the final 4?
By the skin of their teeth.
Skin of teeth, regardless.
But they're there.
They're there.
They are there because of their perseverance. They are probably the team that has had the hardest ups and downs, and they struggle every single episode, but they do somehow inch and squeak it through. They never give up. They do their perseverance is why they're there.
Nag and bicker, and somehow it works.
There's power in nag. There's power in bicker.
There is. And
it really is.
Is it the most effective? No. But it's gotten them to where they are. And so they'll finish last.
I would point to the anxiety piece. I think that anxiety can be a superpower in some ways because it will push you to do things. It will push you to persevere. It will push you to keep going. It will push you to go through the obstacle. And if you can't go through it, around it. If you can't go around it, underneath it by digging a hole or by setting yourself to a rocket and going over it. Somehow I think that is a propellant that they have that's working. Yeah, it's definitely something that people battle with. That's not the point. I think it's something that ultimately, like when you're cramming the night before a final exam, I feel like that's been them the entire race at every single part of the race.
I think it's interesting how at the beginning of each leg, they are reflective and they like set intentions for how they want to talk to each other and behave. And then it's immediately out the window. And they just don't follow any of those intentions that are set. And yet they still end up in the race.
Tom, the anxiety that you were just talking about, is that what, can you explain more on that?
I think there's also just a natural anxiety to running the amazing race. And
Mhm.
it just amplifies with them because I think they're by nature a more anxious team as a result of mostly Amber, but Vinny's still got to deal with it and he creates more of the anxiety. And she, to her credit, like pushes through. That's what I was talking about. Like she goes through that because she could have easily crumbled. She could have easily just sat there and pouted and cried and just gave up, but she didn't. I think you have to find some other gear to push yourself through this stuff. This is not easy. Like this is not something that is comfortable. The Amazing Race is not comfortable. The Amazing Race is not easy. The Amazing Race is difficult. And it's a challenge at every step of the way, whether it's just getting into a cab that doesn't know where to go somehow, and you have to then get them to pull over and then find directions and deal with your partner's methods of getting directions. And you're not being heard. And like at every turn, there is combative energy. And there's many reasons for it, but it's also in large part because like there's an anxiety of this race that I think that like just illuminates out of them through the television, and we can see it and feel it that much more. I think it's just a fuel to their engine. Do you not think that that's playing into it?
Their anxiety?
Yeah.
I think so, but I also think that Vinny is actually an extremely anxious person. He is just like get on the set, just get on the horse and start riding. Just go. I'm not gonna think about that. I'm using all of my energy literally climbing the trees because we have to get there. 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 And he always says, like Nicole was saying at the beginning of every episode, he says, well, I have to listen to her more. Well, I should be listening to her more. Oh, the reason we made it here is like yeah, yes, you have to listen to her more. And I think also her anxiety doesn't help it. Um, but it's a cascading waterfall. I do want to just point out that out of our team averages that we ranked, who would come in different places, we got two out of the top four teams correct. So I think that that is a feat in itself.
Good job by
Yay,
us.
us.
We got Juan and Shane and Amber and Vinny.
Yes, we did.
Nailed that. We blew it on Ricky and Cesar, and we were all over the place with Rod and Leticia. Let's go to our team that got eliminated. Now moving into our episode that we just watched, episode 9. Yvonne and Melissa, how should we frame them? The silent team for the first half?
Self-proclaimed silent.
I mean, we literally learned nothing about them in the first 3 to 4 to 5, 7 episodes until the field got whittled down to literally the 5, 6, 7, 8, the last 7 teams. And then we actually got to see and hear more of them. We speculated, we didn't know if this was indicative of maybe some relationship troubles that 2 years after this race was being run, now it's being released. Maybe there was a different type of relationship for them, and maybe that's why the edit was that way. But it is now confirmed. We couldn't have been more wrong,
I
or
know.
really, we weren't wrong. We couldn't be more surprised to learn with the way that we left off on their exit, that they've moved in together.
It was in a
What was it?
flash, and it was just they moved in together, and now they have a baby.
Vivian Rose. Shout out Vivian Rose.
Vivian, we know you're listening.
From a storytelling standpoint, I just went from absolutely nothing in the beginning. Didn't even say, Yvonne and Melissa, you are team number 7. For like 3 episodes, to getting to know them a little bit, to seeing them get shut out of the alliance at the meat puzzle, and like, oh, they're working with Sonny and Busy a little bit. Oh, we're getting to know them a little bit. They're not such a ghost. To seeing them the last 2 legs, to getting eliminated, and then this very personal, here they are, they've moved in together. It's like this picture of them, one of them pregnant, and then a picture of their baby. Thoughts?
I thought it was bizarre.
Happy for them.
Happy for them. I just felt like this
bizarre.
whole time, these are still strangers to us. They get eliminated, and we have this update. And the update was like as if it was a finale giving updates on contestants.
Right.
So it seemed very out of place.
And we got no other updates like this for any other team.
No.
Josh, thoughts?
Here's my hot take.
Ooh.
So it's all speculation. The speculation is that they edited the whole year for 1-hour episodes, and then it was time to make an hour-and-a-half long episode. However, the PA that had all of the footage from Yvonne and Melissa accidentally dumped their hard drive, and there was no additional footage. And so they couldn't edit them back, and they felt awful that they re-edited the whole season without having the footage for Yvonne and Melissa. And so they had to give a special shout out at the end.
What a theory.
So why did they lose?
I don't think they actually lost. I think they just came in last place. I really do. I mean, they were 10 minutes behind, and they were saying it like throughout the whole race. You come in 10 minutes behind and it's not that big of a deal, but you come in 10 minutes behind in the 5th place and you're out. So I don't think that they're necessarily a weak team, but they are a middle of the pack. They never really shined. They never really jumped ahead of other teams. They did have a spark. They did speak Spanish, which apparently was one of the biggest factors of this season. And also that's to say that we actually averaged out at Yvonne and Melissa being out team number 5. So we got
right.
Correct, right on the money.
Wow. Nice job, everybody.
And this past week, I think the fault of why they went out unfortunately fell on Melissa because she just couldn't pick up on that attention to detail at the challenge with the symbols. And she even had, who was it? Tell her, was it Ricky who told her?
Cesar.
Cesar told her the answer, and still it took her try after try after try, and all the teams got ahead of her, and they were never able to recover from that.
I just didn't understand. She was working with Cesar. He finished. He came over to her. They talked about something. Then she worked with Juan, was talking and communicating with him. Then when Rod finished on his second try, Melissa was literally looking at his stones. She was adjacent to him. For the life of me, in that moment, I was like, okay, here she's going to go. She's going to be in third. And then 7 failure tries. And maybe it's only like a handful of minutes. Who knows? It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Because she could have flipped one over, check, and then the expert could have came over, check, oh, check. The tries on that one could have been a little misleading, but I just don't understand how between working with 3 different people, she didn't have the right combination. They get out of that first roadblock, last place, and they just never regained a footing in this leg. And I think that's why they're out. Can we talk about the expert at the first roadblock with the Taino symbols in that natural spring?
Well, her natural springs were on full display.
It was unbelievable.
What an expert.
Let's go to the other roadblock where we were joining a training at Estadio de Bartolo Colon.
Wow, Bartolo Colon, an infamous pitcher for many teams, including the New York Mets. He was famous for his lack of ability to hit the ball. He is a larger man, and he would swing with his helmet that fell off almost every single swing that he swung the bat. It became a laughing stock to anyone who ever watched him bat until May 9th, a few years ago. Bartolo Colon got up to bat in San Diego, and out of nowhere, Bartolo Colon takes the biggest swing of his entire life, and he hit a home run. He did the unthinkable, and that was on this day a few years ago. So it was only fitting.
Wow.
It was only fitting to see Bartolo Colon on Bartolo Colon Day give the Amazing Race clue.
Wow.
Wow.
You heard it here, folks, only on Tribal Council blog.
Did you know that about May 9th, or did you look that up?
No, I swear I knew.
How do you know?
It was all over my timeline.
Ugh.
And it's just such a ridiculous video to watch. I would recommend anyone watch it. And I just also looked up Bartolo Colon career home runs, and the answer is
There it is.
one.
One.
So
Now, Josh, what do you think about the refreshments that are likely served or lack thereof at Bartolo Colon Stadium?
I did not have high expectations for any sort of City Field review, City Field foodie review. I loved the statue of Bartolo Colon outside, but other than that, it seems pretty desolate.
Yeah.
very desolate. So we go to Estadio de Bartolo Colon, and there he is with his $1 million smile and one home run. And the roadblock requires you to fielding a ground ball and tossing it to first base. Next drill was to run to center field and catch a fly ball. And then finally was the most difficult, probably, hitting a bottle cap with a broomstick in the Dominican Republic's own version of stickball.
I loved this challenge. I loved the simplicity of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like the familiarity that we have to baseball, but like the spin on it that they took with the last part of it being like a stick and a bottle cap that they were using, because that was more Dominican Republic. But my favorite was watching Rod try to field a ground ball and throw it to first base. A man who's bragging off about himself getting drafted or attempted to be
I had
drafted
scholarships. I had offers from the
by the
Cardinals.
Yankees and the Cardinals, and yet this man cannot control the rocket of an arm that he has to just do a gentle toss to first base. Unbelievable. It was hilarious. Also, I was impressed by Ricky. And
Again?
I said to Tom, how is Ricky a better athlete than Rod here? And Tom refused to believe that. But in this case, it was true.
Well, first of all, it was just comedy to see Rod struggle. I can't throw right. He's just so pissed at himself. His strength didn't help him, not one bit. It was just like he should have stood in the outfield. He should have fielded the ball from short center and threw it an extra 50 feet. So it would have landed right at the first baseman's head. That was just hilarious. He catches it the first time, no problem. I think only Shane was the only one who needed a second try on that. So that was pretty simple. And he needed 14 tries to hit it. Now, it looked like he didn't need to hit it on a fly. It just needed to go past the 20 or 25 feet. So that made it a little bit easier. But I don't know. I don't read much into that. It's hard a broomstick is as wide as a broomstick. And you're hitting a bottle cap. And his arms are just, I don't even know if he could. I was surprised he could even swing a bat.
Yeah, totally agree. I thought this was a good challenge. I know that it maybe wasn't the most visually stimulating to look at, but it did feel like it was it needed to be done there. The Dominican Republic has the most players in the MLB out of any other country besides the United States. And it also was kind of cool to see Bartolo Colon, somebody that I know and I have followed to be on The Amazing Race. And we always talk about how much we love a true expert. And this
Yes.
is a true expert. Very proud of The Amazing Race for this. Only the best of the best.
Let's go to our power rankings. So Yvonne and Melissa are crossed off. Nicole had them 4th, I had them 6th, and Josh had them 7th. So Josh extends his lead a little bit to 5 points over Nicole with a low score of 18. Josh is in first with a low score of 18, as he has been all season long. But here's the deal. The winner would be the top 3. So heading into the final 4, I guess they're going to have an elimination halfway through. If Rod and Leticia are eliminated in 4th place, I'll make up 7 points on Josh and tie for first. What a comeback that would be.
So I have no shot.
Correct.
Oh.
Correct. It's either Josh is going to win or I'm going to mount a tremendous comeback in the 11th hour here with if the Rod and Leticia go out. All right, let's cross the finish line.
Across the finish line, I want to express my apologies to Josh because I know how sad you're going to be when you see the finale ending in none other than Philadelphia.
Philadelphia freedom.
It's just so fitting for such a weird, not great season. Sorry, Josh.
Worst city in America.
Shout out Philadelphia.
I'm acknowledging that more on the producers that the only person that is correctly pronouncing Cesar's name is Ricky, and every other person has been saying Cesar. In all of the interviews, in all of the footage of anything that we see, there's no trying to pronounce it correctly. And that's been really interesting for me.
I will cross the finish line with this. This season's final 4 is the right 4, except for Angie and Danny, perhaps. In contrast to last season, I don't think there was a Joel and Garrett this year. And it really, I think, strengthens that argument that we had of the middle of the pack team. There really wasn't a middle of the pack team that emerged here. The middle of the pack teams were the middle of the pack teams. The never going to win teams were the never going to win teams. We may not have ranked them perfectly or seen it perfectly, but I think the right teams, the teams that could win, that have the best chance of winning the Amazing Race this season, are the teams that are in the Final 4. This Final 4 feels correct. It feels like the 4 best teams are there. And I'm excited for the finale, as always. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate you both being here tonight on the ReRACEables Podcast. We will be back next week to recap the finale of Season 36 right here on the ReRACEables Podcast. Woo! See you next week. Woo! Finale week, baby. Finale week, baby. Oh, yeah, it's the finale week, baby.
Oh.